Hello, everyone. We'll get started here shortly as people are funneling into the room. So welcome. As you're joining, I can see lots of folks in here. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from. As we wait for a couple of seconds here for everyone to kind of get set up. Also, feel free to tell us how you're feeling today if you want to use an emoji, if that feels comfortable for you. We have lots of people joining here. Great. So as a quick reminder, our code of conduct before we get started here is to please be respectful and kind to others throughout the session. And this session is going to be recorded. So if you're not comfortable being on camera during this session, feel free to turn your video off. I'll wait just another moment and then we'll get started, as it's about 2 minutes after. Alrighty, let's get started. I'm going to try and advance the slide, Marina. There we go. Great, thank you. Okay, so we're going to start today's session with a reminder about the importance of metadata. And then we'll jump into a demonstration about our participation reports tool. And we will give you some time to check the participation reports for your organization. And finally, there'll be time for you to ask questions of us about anything that may be related to participation reports or your metadata. So since we're hoping this is going to be an interactive session, and our intention is to make this interactive, we're going to talk a little bit about the Zoom features, and we've identified some of them in the deck with red arrows. So for questions, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to get your questions asked and answered. It's easier for us to monitor the Q&A section for Zoom for all the questions, as we tend to use the chat box to share links for resources of things that we discussed throughout the session. There's also a little react button down there that you can use to share how you're feeling about things as we go through the session. And also feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask a question real time and interact with us. Real time, we can unmute you and invite you in as a presenter so that we can hear you. And we hope that some of you will opt to do that. Again, the session's going to be recorded. And if you're not comfortable being on camera, feel free to turn off your video if you decide to raise your hand and volunteer to ask a question later in the session. Also, please note that we do have options for captioning at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to use that. And okay, great. There should be some translations option in there as well. So who is here today? First, me, I'm Rosa, the Communications and Events Manager here at Crossref, and I'm part of the Community Outreach team, and I'm located in the northeastern part of the US. And joining me today is Marina, our Member and Experience Manager. Marina, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Thank you. And helping us answer your questions and monitor the chat is our colleague, Sally, Member Support Specialist on our membership team. So thank you both. Again, we're going to go ahead and get started with metadata. So as a Crossref member, you'll probably know that you register unique DOIs for each item that you publish with us. You also provide rich metadata alongside the record, and the richer the metadata that you provide us, the better. And this will also be a theme throughout today's session. Rich metadata is really important to us, and it's important to making connections between these records. As a member, you also display your DOI on a unique landing page. And these unique landing pages should contain full bibliographic information so that end users can verify that they've been delivered to the correct item. Once they click the DOI link, the DOI on your landing pages, it should be displayed as a URL so that if the reader comes to the landing page, excuse me, they can easily cite that item by just copying and pasting the link. And then finally, on the unique landing page, there should be an easy way to access the full text of the content. And it is acceptable for that full text to be behind a login or a paywall as long as everyone is able to access the landing page. Then the paywalled content is fine. A DOI can resolve to HTML full text of that content if the page includes the full bibliographic information. Then the DOI displayed as a link on a separate landing page isn't necessary. So, in just a reminder, it's not good practice to link directly to a PDF, as that link to the PDF will just initiate a download. Excuse me. And then it's difficult for end users to confirm that they have the right content. And one more point, as a Crossref member, to keep your metadata record updated and rich. One clear instance would be resolution URLs or landing pages of your DOI that get updated or moved over time, which happens often. Okay, so excuse me, what is metadata? Well, what are we talking about? Although we can accept metadata records for many types of content, let us take the example of journal article. Basic metadata includes things like titles, dates, author names, abstracts, DOI, so forth. Additional metadata includes elements like full text URLs, for example. An example would be similarity check and text mining. You can provide full text URL for text and data mining, specifically for researchers carrying out this type of work. We also maintain an expansive set of relationship types to support the various content items that a research object like a journal article might link to. And I want to show you an example of a DOI with various metadata elements that I just mentioned. So here is an example of a DOI from eLife with the various metadata elements in the XML. And if you look, you can see with the red arrow, you see the DOI 10.7554//eLife.91034, I think is what it is. And as you look through the DOI record, you'll see some other key metadata in the record that we require, which members will submit when they create the DOI, like provenance, publisher information, which you see at the top of the XML API output, basic bibliographic metadata, journal title, article title, publication dates, author names, the DOI itself. Also some information about relationships, versions, preprints, supplements, references, funding information like award numbers. And also you'll see some information that could be about contributors and affiliations. And those are represented with ORCID IDs and ROR IDs. And all of the elements that I showed in the previous slide. Well, we also maintain an expansive set of relationship types to support the various content items that a research object, like a journal article, might link to. And all of these metadata elements and the relationships that I've been talking about so far form a network, and that we call the research nexus. We envision it as a rich, reusable, open network of relationships that connect research, organizations, people, things, and actions. The foundation of the research nexus is metadata. So the richer, more comprehensive the metadata in Crossref records, the more value there is for our members and for others, including future generations. And why is this important? So the XML record that I just showed you is from the API is just one example of what a metadata record looks like. All the metadata available with Crossref can be accessed using our open APIs. It's how your metadata is discoverable. It's how other services find your content, link to it, and make those rich connections. The REST API is relied on by a large part of the research information community and beyond. And we receive nearly 2 billion requests of metadata of us through our APIs. So about, I think it's 1.8 billion requests each month. and this number has tripled in the last 5 years. Our members are the heaviest users, using it for all kinds of information about their own records or picking up connections like citations and other relationships. Also, databases, discovery tools, libraries, and governments all use the API as well. Research groups use it for all sorts of things, such as analyzing trends in science or recording retractions and corrections. So the chances are high that almost any tool that you rely on within the scientific research information community somewhere, somehow is incorporated in Crossref metadata within that tool or service. Now, metadata and relationships between research objects and entities can support the whole scholarly research ecosystem in many ways, including helping to provide signals about trustworthiness of work, including provenance information such as who funded it, when and for how much, which organizations and people contributed to what, whether something was updated or corrected, or whether it was checked for originality. All of these signals can be expressed through Crossref metadata, reproducibility, helping others to produce outcomes, or adding relationships between literature, data, software protocols and methods, and more. All of these relationships can be asserted through members' ongoing stewardship of their Crossref metadata records. Reporting and assessment, helping organizations such as universities, funders, governments to track and demonstrate the outcomes of the investment, providing benchmarking information, show compliance with funder mandates, and to decide what research to fund. This kind of information can be included in the Crossref metadata. Discoverability, helping people and systems identify, work through multiple angles. Registering content with Crossref makes it possible for work to be found and used. Thousands of systems use Crossref metadata. Therefore, the richer the records are, the more visibility there is likely to be of your work. By including metadata like abstracts and references are very simple ways to increase the visibility of your records. So registering really rich metadata with Crossref is important. It really amplifies your work. So here we are, and I'm going to hand over to Marina, and she's going to talk about our tool for measuring your participation with these various metadata elements. Marina.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Rosa. Hi, so I'm Marina, and I'm the Member Experience Manager at Crossref. And now, with all of this background that Rosa has provided to us, let's take a look at participation reports. So we just saw in the previous section that the richer your metadata is, that means the more metadata elements you include, the more chance your content has to appear in one of the downstream tools, and therefore the rich metadata increases the discoverability and visibility of your content. But it's not necessarily that easy to find how rich your metadata is by using the APIs or looking at the XML like Rosa showed us. Some might find it easier to look at something a bit more visual, and which is why years ago we created participation reports. They are available online and they are completely open. And you can use these to find out how complete your own organization's metadata is. You can also look up metadata completeness for other organizations of your interest. For example, your sister organization or your competitor, just so that you can see and compare. So to start with, I'm gonna show you what the interface looks like and what it is that you can see. And then once we're finished, we'll open the session for questions. We will give you the link to participation reports, and we will ask you all to look up your own organization and then ask any questions that you have about what you're seeing, or essentially anything that you'd like to ask us about the reports. So let me walk you through the interface. When you first see participation reports, it'll look something like what you currently see on the screen. You will need to start typing in the name of your Crossref member organization. Then as you type, you will see the drop-down list, like the one on the screen, is going to start to appear. Then you click to select your organization. So let's do that. And we've selected an organization that is called eLife for this presentation, as they have quite rich metadata that they're depositing with us. So once you select an organization, you will see the main page of the report and the information about organization. So in this example of eLife, there's a lot of info on this report. So we can take a look at each item individually. At the top, you can see the name of organization and also the total number of items or DOIs that have been registered with us. You also see for each of these items what percentage of those DOI records contain these key metadata elements, such as references, abstracts, ORCID IDs, etc. These are the metadata elements that we consider important to make content more useful and discoverable. These include references, ROR and ORCID identifiers, funding information, URLs for licenses and similarity check service, abstracts, crossmark if an organization uses the service, and affiliation metadata. Currently, we support 3 institution identifiers, which is ROR, Wikidata, and ISNI. Each one of these elements of the metadata has a percentage displayed next to it. You can also look at this data in several ways. So on the right side of the report, you can choose between viewing the statistics for the current content items. So it's those that were published within the last 2 years. That's the default setting. You can also switch to look at the backfile items, which is all of the content that is older than 2 years, or by all time. Please note that not all fields will be populated for all titles. For example, content that was published in 1960 isn't going to have an ORCID, for example. And there are some types of publications that may not have abstracts. And maybe some backfile content won't have much of funding detail the further back you go, and so on. You can also toggle between different content types. So if you publish more than just one content type, on the left side, you can select from a list of available content types, such as journal articles, books, reports, as they all have different types of metadata. For example, here, eLife registers DOIs for lots of different content types. And here, therefore, they've got an option to look specifically at a particular content type that they want. Now, if your organization registers DOIs for more than one journal, you can use this box in the middle to find the results for just one of your journals, which might be of interest to some of you who are present today. So in this case, the report will show the percentage of metadata for just that title, rather than the total content for that member. This is important as there might be different editors depositing for each journal, and they may not all collect and include the same metadata in their deposits. So, once you've toggled and filtered all of these sections, you will be able to see the results for these 11 metadata elements. Each item has a more info button that, when clicked, will display an explanation of each indicator with links to more information, including why that metadata is important and how it can be improved. So just in case you're doing this some other time or cannot remember what each of these things mean. You can hover over the little I button and click different sections to read more about why that metric is important, where to learn more links to documentation, and how to improve that score. Now, let's take a look at each of these metadata elements individually. Starting with references, this is one of the key bit of metadata to include. References are very important for us to build that picture of research nexus that Rosa was talking about earlier. You can also see the ORCID IDs. These are the unique identifiers for individual researchers that we saw earlier. You can also include funder register IDs that help to identify the organization that funded the research, which is really useful context for researchers when they're reading an article. And as we're talking about funding, you might also add specific fund award numbers. I just realized that I skipped over the abstracts right there on top in the middle. You obviously can include your abstracts in the metadata, which might really help with discoverability of your content. Now, we also have the option of adding in the crossmark information. So the crossmark is a service that we offer to help our members register metadata to indicate how current an item or content is and whether it has been in some way corrected or retracted. You can also add in special URLs for data mining if you are comfortable and don't mind researchers doing text and data mining across your content, but you might want to add in here a specific URL with specific permissions. Then you can also add the license URLs. So you make it clear what license the content is available under, whether it's open access, CC BY, or other license types. Finally, if you are using the similarity check service, you might want to add in the special URLs for similarity check, as these URLs will allow Turnitin, the provider of the service, to index your content and include it in their Authenticate, which is the platform, database. So you'll actually need to include these URLs if you wish to participate in the service and use it, since the content should be included when others also check the submitted manuscripts for similarity to content that's already been published. So yeah, there are also affiliations and ROR IDs that obviously help identify which institutions your authors are affiliated with. So here we are. That was a quick description of each of the metadata fields in the participation report. And now we're coming to the most exciting part. Let's move towards each of you looking at your own participation reports. So if you could open a browser and go to this URL that you see on the screen. I'm pretty sure my colleagues will also drop that in the chat. And there was probably a reply somewhere here. So the URL is crossref.org/members/prep. So when you're there, you can type in your Crossref member name. If you're not sure, and we know this can happen, if you're not sure what your name is, please put a question in the Q&A box, and then we can help you look up your name if maybe you know your DOI prefix or a name of your journal. So just let us know, and we will be happy to help. And just to kind of, so we know whether you have been successfully able to find your participation report, just react with the emoji on Zoom so we can see that this search has been successful. And again, if you haven't or you're struggling with it, just let us know. Put it in the Q&A box so we can help you. And for those of you who have successfully found your participation report, feel free to play around with it and look at your results. I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to do that and look through the chat and Q&A box in the meantime. We have quite a busy chat today. That's amazing.
Is, yes. And I did have encouraged a few times here to, it's easier for us if the questions are in the Q&A box. So some people have been doing that, putting it there, so great. And thanks, Sally, for keeping up with the chat and all of the questions coming through.
All right, I see Monique, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, says that we use OJS of PKP. And this is great because in this case, you should probably have and use the Crossref plugin for OJS, which will then automatically register the DOIs for your published content and include the metadata. I just need to mention, since we had some of the questions about this during the registration, the Crossref plugin for OJS has to be updated periodically to support new metadata types. So it's a lot easier technically to add the metadata to OJS directly, and then it gets converted to XML that is sent to Crossref. And there's often a lag between adding new metadata type to OJS in general. So depending on which version of the OJS are you and which version of the plugin is supported there, that might impact the metadata that you are registering with Crossref, since it's being registered automatically. Hope that answers it. Now, what do we have here? Just trying to catch up with all of the questions. So I see a question in the chat on how do we update our records. We're gonna jump to this part in a bit after everyone gets a chance to look at their participation reports and ask more questions about metadata and certain elements or other participation report related question. And then I'm guessing in about 10 or so minutes, we're going to cover the part where we show you how to update your metadata or what content registration methods are out there and how to choose the one that works for you. So I see a question from Seda. Can we fill in the missing information shown in the report? It appears that affiliations have not been entered in my records. Is this related to ORCID records? So there are two types of metadata, one of which is affiliations and one is ORCID IDs. Thank you so much for your question, Sarah. That's really interesting. The affiliations refer to the organizations might as well be ROR IDs that you include for kind of a unique identifier. And ORCID IDs would be identifying the authors. And of course, you can fill in the missing information. And we will cover how to do that just in a bit. Is it okay of the percentages do not add up to 100%? An anonymous question we have in the Q&A box. Yes, it is absolutely okay. Of course, we should aim as high as possible, but you should also interpret the data according to the content you register. So maybe some content does not have abstracts, or the back file content doesn't have the funding information or ORCID IDs. So you should really look at these percentages and think about what kind of content you register and what kind of information you can provide. Thank you. Many organizations do not have their ROR filled in. Do you have any plans to fill in this field automatically as it is implemented with a list of references? Question from Maria. Thank you very much. So if you are registering journal articles in our new record registration form, there is a prompt that searches through ROR database and suggests you the ROR ID to be automatically filled in if you're using it as your content registration method. As on the topic of matching this information after you've registered your DOI, it's something that we definitely will be working in the future, but unfortunately I cannot give you any correct timeline currently. So it's best to just register the ROR IDs for your content, at least going forward. Hope that answers your question, Maria. Thank you. So I have, I'm looking at the question from MH. I understand that participation report provides a global view of the metadata. Is it possible to generate report in Excel or CSV format that contains all the metadata for each item that has been registered? Thank you for your question. We know this is a very required feature and we are working on making it happen. Unfortunately, currently, this is not possible. There are some metadata elements that can be uploaded in bulk through a CSV document, and I'm gonna cover which elements are these exactly in a bit. And the easiest way to do that would be to contact our technical support team, who will then assist you with the bulk update of metadata. And as soon as we provide you a tool that can just export all of your DOI records with their metadata in one file, we'll definitely let the world know. Thanks. So I think we still have some questions to answer. Let's see.
There's one question. Which version of the OGS do we currently recommend? From Nadia, which offers the best compatibility with our with your advanced platform? It's in chat.
So we would always recommend the latest version of OGS as the next one. Keep supporting more metadata elements, and I'm imagining it might take some time for Crossref XML export plugin to be also up to date and suitable to work with the latest version, but generally we do recommend you update as soon as you can. And yeah, Rosa is gonna send the link in our documentation to everyone in a bit in a chat. All right. I see a question from Julie Myers. Julie's saying that on our page, the funder ID and awards aren't showing up. So if I'm understanding this correctly, it might be that this information is not available for a specific content type. On the other hand, if you mean that you've recently updated your metadata and it's not reflected on the report, it might take up to 1 day for the information in your participation report to get updated. I see you're saying you've included it in the metadata and have been for quite some time. It's really hard for me to see this without saying your submissions or participation reports, but I would ask you to drop a message to our technical support team at support@crossref.org, and we'll make sure if there's a bug, we get it fixed quickly. Thank you. All right, what do we have now? Does the OJS plugin capture raw information? Thank you, Elizabeth. This is great. I think the latest version of the OJS has this fixed. The previous ones, I think the latest is now, I know that for sure 3.3 and 3.4 is not supporting that. So you will need to keep updating your instance for it to support a new metadata type, which in this case is ROR IDs. Thank you, Elizabeth. So a question from Victor. I see you've checked your data and affiliations, funding award numbers, you have 0%. And you use OJS, and this information is in OJS and is not in Crossref. What are you doing wrong? Great news, you are doing nothing wrong. It's great that you do have all of this information in OJS. Although, as I mentioned, not all of the metadata elements are supported currently with OJS, and it also depends on which version of OJS you are on. So in this case, you could reach out to PKP and submit a feature request. We are always working with them and prioritizing different metadata elements. Or I'm shortly going to cover what are the other options of updating your metadata. So you can go ahead and update the metadata for your content separately from the OJS plugin. Thanks, Victor. Okay, so I see a question in the chat from Suraj. What will be the new membership terms and it will affect DOI? So we have recently published a blog that I think Rosa could quickly find a link to and send in the chat, where we're doing some updates to our membership terms. It will not affect DOI per se. You are still able to register content just the same way you have done before. There are a couple of minor tweaks, and you can read all of them in the blog that Rosa just sent. It's very nicely phrased and visualized, because you don't have to read through all of the terms and conditions, because let's be honest, not a lot of people do. But there is a nice table that summarizes what is changing, what it was before, and if that has any impact on you. And please do let us know by sending us an email if you do not wish to proceed with new terms. Otherwise, you're automatically accepting them. All right. I see a question from Stanley. Hi, it's Segu Press. Hi, Stanley. Nice to see you here. We register our metadata complete with references, but ours has 0 on references. What are we doing wrong? Again, I'm pretty sure if you're registering references in the correct way, that should be reflected. You might want to check if the 0 on references refer to a specific content type or current content or backfile content, and kind of analyze where there might be an issue with interpreting data. But the best approach would be to reach out to our support team at support@crossref.org and see if there are any errors in the submission you're doing. Maybe the format is different, or they can just help you troubleshoot this. So I see we've answered a lot of questions. Thank you so much for Rosa and Sally for helping me here and doing this all together. I'm gonna go ahead and look at the next part about, okay, now we've seen where do we have our gaps, and we want to update our metadata now to make it complete, full, rich, increase the discoverability of our content and visibility. And just to address a couple of questions that we found during the registration, some of you were wondering, what are all of the possible content registration methods? How do I know which one to use, which one's better for me? So we came up with this small kind of helper tool. So the first thing that you would want to ask yourself is, okay, am I using an OGS platform from PKP? If you're using OGS, you should definitely use the Crossref plugin for OGS. This is going to make your life tremendously easier. So that's it. For those of you who are not using OGS, ask yourself a question: are you comfortable writing XML files? Do you know what an XML file is? And here it can go to different ways. So for example, let's say, yes, you know what XML is, you're comfortable writing it. And the next question would be, once you create XML files, are you comfortable using HTTPS post? So if you are, you might be a really professional in your field, so you should just be sending us XML files using HTTPS post, and that's the most direct approach. If you know and you can create XML files, but you're not sure what post exactly are we talking about, then you should upload the XML files in the admin tool that we have. But if all of this conversation about XML is already really confusing to you, it's fine. We have other options. Don't be worried. Now you just need to think, what kind of content are you planning to register? So there are multiple options for you. Let's say if you're using preprints or peer reviews or standards that are, let's say, less common types of content that our members register, unfortunately, you'll have to find a way to create XML files. But if you're registering anything else, like journals, articles, book, dissertations, working papers, reports, conference proceedings, all of that, you can use our web deposit form. So it's been there for quite a long time, and it's gonna stay there for some time. So it's really user-friendly. You just type in all of your information and it just gets sent to Crossref. And then we have been having some feature requests, like how to register reference directly with the first deposit, which currently you cannot do with web deposit form. So our team has and is developing a new record registration form that is currently only available for journal articles and research grants. I think Rosa has sent a link to it a bit earlier in the chat. So if you scroll a bit up, you will see a link to a new helper tool, or what we would call a record registration form. So it's kind of an improved version of the current web deposit form. You can directly deposit references there. And we are working on updating it, upgrading it to support other content types. Now, this is the baseline question, the most important one. How am I registering content? How am I updating content? And now, when we saw all of these metadata elements, we want to make sure that starting today, tomorrow, next month, just going forward, you do include these metadata elements in your future DOI registrations. We understand that it might take some time and effort to collect all of these elements and all of this metadata for already registered content. But I think the first step would be to start doing it for content going forward. And once you find some time to update the content that has already been registered, so that's how we do it. For the existing DOI's records, we can update them one by one. So, for example, I think at least a good half of the people here is using OJS. So if you're using the OJS plugin, you should just go to the relevant article. You need to unpublish it. Then you go ahead and add the missing element, you save, and then you republish. And for those of you who are using OJS, I think one of our next event is going to be OJS focused. So we're going to have more screenshots of the OJS and kind of click together with you. Where do you go? Where do you enter? What's the difference in versions, etc. Now, if you use helper tools, and when I say helper tools, I mean either the classic web deposit form or the new record registration form. What you will need to do there is to redeposit the whole record with the missing element. So you just go ahead and submit it again. And if you send us XML files one way or another, you just send us the updated version of it, and make sure, don't forget to update your timestamp, because we need to help system identify that this is the latest version of your record. So for some of the metadata elements, you can update them in bulk. And I'm referring to the question that has been asked before today about CSV files. So there are several elements that support these CSV files and bulk uploads, which are the funding data, similarity check URLs, text and data mining URLs, and license info. So for that, please contact our technical support, and they will help you with this. This is generally a very good practice to contact our support when you're not sure about something, or you need some more technical assistance. We're here for you every working day and happy to assist. So I see there's a question about OMP, and just want to mention that the plugin work is in progress. What we currently have is a community developed plugin. So maybe Sally's going to leave a link there, or you can also just type in your preferred search engine Crossref OMP plugin, and that should lead you to the code to GitLab, where one of our community members has wrote a code for this plugin. We recently had it tested, and it's still kind of in beta version and in development, but it seems to be working. And for kind of more official ones, I guess that's a work in the future. I'm seeing a question from Suraj in chat about plugin for WordPress. Unfortunately, we currently do not have it, but it's also quite high on the list of features to be developed soon. And a very interesting question in the chat from Bonnie. Do we pay again for re-uploading updated record via web deposit form? That's an excellent question. No. So you only pay for the DOIs the first time that you register. If at some point in the future, nearby future or far away future, you want to update your metadata on your existing DOI, whether you're re-uploading it via web deposit form, or you're sending us XMLs, or you are updating your metadata in bulk, you are not paying for an updated record, only for that one time when it was created. All right. In case you enjoyed it, and I hope you did, and you still feel that you might want to have a refresher or you have some more detailed questions. So first of all, we are gonna send you all the recording of this event. So you will always have it handy if you want to rewatch some bits or share it with your colleagues maybe. You can read our documentation. The link is right there on your screen. You can also visit our community forum and see maybe one of our members has the same issue. And maybe you're going to get a really tailored reply to your situation really fast. It's great to have our community building there and members connecting and sharing best practices and most common challenges. Our team is also at the community forum regularly, so they enjoy addressing the questions there because everyone can see that. Although if you want to reach out to our team directly, you just go to crossref.org/contact, and there you can choose what type of question do you have. So it can be a technical question, it can be a question related to your membership, or maybe you have some billing questions. So this is the preferred option to reach out to us. And the more information you fill in there, the faster we are able to help you. And if by any chance you are at the Beijing Book Fair this week, some of our team are also there. So our stand is located in the Hall E on the B1 floor. You can see the booth number on the screen. And we're also going to be doing a presentation on Friday, 20th of June, 10 a.m. local time at the event stage called How Metadata Supports Scholarship. And with this, we're coming to an end, but since we still have a couple of minutes left, I'm just gonna quickly look if there are any questions that we can answer before we leave today. Would web deposit form be upgraded to allow additional metadata to be entered? A question from Andrew. Thank you, Andrew, for your question. The web deposit form in the way that it currently is probably will not be upgraded. But as I mentioned a couple of slides ago, we are developing this new record registration tool, which allows you to already add more additional metadata for journal articles. So our team is working on adding more content types that are supported there and more additional metadata to be entered. So it would be in some time a brand new polished upgraded version of the current web deposit form. But if you're registering journal articles, you can already start using it today. All right. A question from Bundhorn. Should DOIs be registered by only one organization to ensure no content is plagiarized or duplicated publication of similar work? So as a Crossref member, you can and should and must, I can even say, register the DOIs only for the content that you publish. So you as a publishing organization only have rights to register DOIs for your content. And these are the kind of checks that our team does when you apply for to become a Crossref member. So we do look at what kind of content are you publishing? Are you the parent organization? And things like that. And only once after our team has done all of the application checks, we will then accept your application. And once you become a member, you can only register the DOIs for your content. All right. Quick question from Patricia. Have you fixed the encryption in credentials and password passed between OJS and Crossref? I am afraid that it's more of a technical question that should be going to our technical support. As far as I'm aware, it has been fixed, but maybe you want our team to look specifically at your account and your credentials and how is it working for you, and see if there's any gap that we can still fix. Okay, so the last question that I'm gonna answer live is question from Tammy. How is this data accessed, assessed when applying for indexing in PubMed, etc.? So we make our most current metadata available via our APIs, but we don't push this data to anyone. So platforms, there are a bunch of platforms that are using the metadata from our APIs and is connected to retrieve the information from our REST API. They are using it, but it's not us who's sending it to them. So we cannot say that we're directly influencing the indexing in various platforms. For example, Google Scholar, that a couple of people asked before, they had told us that they do not use metadata from Crossref. So we can't really influence the push of this information to other system, but a lot of them are using this information. And we don't have a full list of that because sometimes we're also not informed. But it is definitely true that the more metadata you include, the more chances are to kind of be out there and connect to be a part of this research nexus and all of the scholarly connections out there in the world. Okay. One very last question, because it's going to be a quick one. Jessica in the chat is asking, how does Crossref determine if these re-uploads when using the web deposit form are new or not? So when you update your metadata, each submission has a timestamp. So basically we can see whether it was today, tomorrow, or 2 days in the future. And the system just always takes the latest one. And even when you're using the web deposit form, when you get to click the button submit, it generates the current timestamp of now. So the newer the time is, the newer your updated record is. All right, we have tackled all of the question as much as I can see them. Thanks so much for my team here, Rosa and Sally. This has been a fabulous teamwork. I think we've tackled so much with so many people joining us today. And yeah, we are coming now to an end, and just want to thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for all of your questions. We're here for you even when the webinar is finished, so just reach out to us. And yeah, wishing you all a lovely day, whether it's your morning, afternoon, or evening. And yeah, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.